What's going on, YouTubers? We're back in the office, staring at the corn. No, not really. I'm loading a load of popcorn. It's going to Utah, out of Nebraska, and what is it? Wednesday today. I got to be there tomorrow, so I got plenty of time. Actually, it's not that far. Seems Utah is far, but not really. It's not. Actually, is. Harvest time. It's about harvest time. Look how yellow the corn already turns. The highways, 2-lane highway is gonna get busy pretty soon. So, I'm trying to. I don't know what I did with the paperwork. Oh, it's right here. Something I bought. I started seeing a lot of people actually was watching my Caterpillar videos. And I will abbreviate what happened with my with the truck, fuel mileage and stuff like that. I don't know if I explained. Maybe somebody will catch up on it. About a year ago, I ended up overhauling a motor, and I ended up doing a 10R7172 pistons. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. I got an MXX Cat, and this is like screwed up deal. Anyways, disassembled the engine. I found the broken ring on the number one. Ended up buying all new cylinder packs, the 10R7172s. Rebuilt the motor, reused the head because the head was replaced prior to me owning the truck. So the head literally had, I don't know, 60,000 miles. But I ended up giving it to the like a machine shop. They checked it over. They said, like, don't even touch it. Like, this is perfect shape. So I got assembled the engine back on. We started up, everything runs fine. Checked it over. I remember first load, I got a load of cattle. It was a little over 80,000 pounds, which you need to put an engine under a good load right off the overhaul. And everything's fine. Everything break in. I got literally maybe like 90,000 miles on it. So I ran it for a couple, I would say a month or something, and I started having issues. Like, it started running rough, and it doesn't seem like it was anything mechanically bad. Something's broken in the motor. It just was rough, like the humming noise coming through the cap. So I replaced the cap mounts. They solved the problem a little bit. I checked the motor mounts. I replaced them when I did the transmission. I'm like, well, there's got to be something. So I got a friend of mine has a ET for the Caterpillar. We plugged into it. I checked all the sensors, all the data, everything. I said, well, maybe it's getting hot, and then it doesn't. So I started replacing cam, crank sensors, boost sensors. I got a resistor and a fuel temperature sensor. I plug it back into the sensor, then I unplugged it. I bought it like a full kit. I ended up replacing an oil pressure sensor. Ran it overhead numerous times. One time there's a come up injector number 5 misfire. I remember 5 or 4. So I ended up pulling the injector out, getting a new injector, and they were new. They would not cover under warranty. So I says whatever. So I popped the injector back in. I says maybe that will solve the problem. Nope, didn't do nothing. Mess around with the fuel pressure tremendous amount of times. Tried different fuel filters, replaced the fuel pump, put electric fuel pump on it as a prime pump. Basically it runs before all the filters and everything. Nope, same thing. So then I have a video. I actually ended up replacing a atmospheric biometrical pressure, atmospheric map sensor, whatever, everybody calls it different. Basically what the sensor does, it locates right next to the oil pressure housing, oil pressure sensor housing, which is on the driver's side at the bottom of the engine. If you have a fuel filter, it's right underneath it. Mine right next to the dipstick, towards the back of the truck behind the oil power steering pump. So I replaced that sensor. I tried to ohm I don't remember exactly the number says, and I read it. I've got a new sensor. I ohmed the one thing, and then I ohm my old sensor. It would be ohming completely the other number. So I started thinking to myself, like I explained on that video, I says, this is actually what does fine tuning. So we put it in, I put it in, voila, the truck ran good. So in my idea, the sensor either stuck on a very high altitude or stuck on a low altitude, and it was retarding the timing or advancing the time. It was doing something. So it fixed the problem that something gets missed. I even brought a truck to the dealer and they looked it over. I said, check all the sensors by the spec. Yep, nope, they all up to spec. But in reality, you can't change the sensor because you gotta go to Colorado, ohm it, and then you gotta come down to, let's say, to Florida, ohm, and see if the numbers change. It'd be hard to change the altitude on the sensor, so I ended up replacing it. That solves the problem. So now everything got fixed. I drove the truck for another, I don't know, 30,000 miles. I says, okay, it's went through the break-in time. It's time to start paying attention to fuel mileage. I kind of was keeping track of it, and it was all over the place. I mean, day-to-day difference. It was different loads, different trailers. I paid attention, didn't really get really good fuel mileage. Plus, if anybody ever pulled the cow pod, you don't get good fuel mileage in general. So now, for the past month or so, but I wasn't driving much, here and there a little bit. Mainly, I was pulling a grain hopper. Besides, now it's a dry van behind me, and getting a load of popcorn. I was under 5 miles to the gallon. So, okay, time to do something regarding fuel mileage. So this is not my first rodeo. This is not my first truck. And prior to this, I had basically same setup, same truck. 2001. Instead, I had a Cadillac. It had a Detroit. Well, 60 series Detroit, known for their fuel mileage. If they mechanically, let's say 100% level. If everything sounds good, no intercooler leaks, you get good fuel pressure. Overhead ran good. So I started thinking to myself, what is the first thing I remember when that was my basically a first truck where I owned it for a long time. What is the first thing I did to increase the fuel mileage to own that truck? And it clicked into me. Believe it or not, I will explain exactly what this is. Anybody knows this thing is, exactly looks like that, and it's right here on the dashboard now. This is your actual instant Iowa 80 truck stops actually sells them. You can get them online. If anybody knows, Kevin Rutherford is the one who actually, there's his signature, and that's exactly the same one I have. Kevin Rutherford, one who introduced this thing to the trucking industry. Some trucks will have like a GPS size display and you can see your instant fuel mileage, but it jumps so fast. I drove a truck with a full screen, like a little bit of higher upgrade. That thing kind of delays your instant fuel mileage, and you can see it when you're going down the road. Believe it or not, it's more than anything mental game. When you see instant number of your fuel mileage, can't believe it. You ain't gonna believe it how much difference does it make on increasing the fuel mileage when you see instant numbers. That thing can pull out all the gauges. I don't have an intake temperature, but I have on the scan gauge. You can pull out the boost. Whatever your ECM reads the information from all your sensors, that thing will put out, besides cam and crank position sensor. Maybe it does, but I didn't see it. It tells you the torque, the horsepower, the engine load, and everything else. So I got it. I got that thing. I drove. I got it end of the last week in Iowa 80, and then I drove to Nebraska, got unloaded. Believe it or not, from that little bit being loaded and then part of it being empty, I increased my fuel mileage by, I would say, probably 3 or 4 tanks already, which doesn't seem much, but when you drive a lot of miles, it adds up. At the end of the week, it all comes out to the profit. And I started seeing the problem. Well, I have to keep it under 20 pounds of boost to get any kind of sort of fuel mileage, like go to close to 6. And I said, okay, we're going to go back to square one, and I need to change my tune. I have a feeling the tune is bad. And I'm not trying to bash on a Pittsburgh Power by all means. So I called the Pittsburgh Power. I says, look, this engine, it's MXX, was supposed to have a 18-to-1 compression pistons. But when I overhauled it, I ended up doing a 16-to-1. Does that tune where you guys sold it to me, will it work on a 16-to-1 compression? There was a very long pause, and he's like, I don't know. I don't see a difference. I says, well, the compression is a little bit different. Maybe the timing needs to be advanced, or maybe it needs to be delayed. Eventually, they end up telling me they're not sure because they never run into this problem, which surprises me. So I went with a different tune. I called PDI, I talked to them, not bashing on them too. They don't know if their tune will work. He told me, I guarantee you will work on a 18-to-1 compression on a stock Acer, but if it's lower compression, we don't know how it's going to react. I says, okay, can you tune it? We'll try yours out. If it don't increase fuel mileage, you take it out and put it all. Nope, we don't do that. Well, they charging $2,300. I says, you know what? I ain't doing it. So then I called the other guy in Missouri. He quite a ways away from me. He could do it. So I ended up going with Diesel Freak. And when I called him, I liked the idea of their tune. He asked me what I got done to the engine. I says, that's not regular MXX. So I talked to him, and he told me right away, he says, your timing needs to be 2 degrees advance. Right, he said advance. If you would have had an 18-to-1 compression, it needs to be right at dead center, whatever. So he says, if you run in it for the stock MXX CAT program, it will work, but you're not going to get fuel mileage. And he said, let me ask you this. When you step on the gas pedal, does it have some sort of delay, like in the power, the response? He says, yes, it does. He says, if you advance the timing, it will respond a lot faster and you can increase your fuel mileage. I went in, spent $1,800, and I told him, I says, if it don't work, I will call and complain about it till you guys return the money and put whatever the program it was in it. Can't say much right now. I'm still, let's say, testing this idea. But it did got a reprogram yesterday. I bobtailed there and bobtailed back home. Got an empty dry van, drove it. I can see being empty and bobtail already increased a little bit in fuel mileage. But holy moly, does it make a huge difference on the power and a respawn on the pedal. I mean, you step, it's so instant, that is crazy. It's like driving a car. Another thing I find out, the EGTs, which exhaust temperature, went way down, and my intake temperature went way down. And obviously the boost went up. I can boost a little over 50 pounds right now, but I don't have to boost as much to make a power going up the hill. So I can go up the hill at 30-35 pounds. So if you boost less, that means less fuel, that means less money out of your pocket. So they actually work. So now we're gonna take the load to Utah. I gotta go across Wyoming and see what it does. If I have any good updates or bad updates, I will obviously post them, but the reason I'm posting this video because a lot of people were interested in my research in the Caterpillar. So I told myself a promise, not promise so much. I literally got so frustrated when I see the numbers on the fuel mileage being under 5 miles to the gallon pulling dry van. I said, I might need to consider buying a different truck because this is just crazy. Don't get me wrong, this is good, reliable truck to pull a cow up out of grain hopper because it doesn't matter what you put behind it. Put in the front of those kind of trailers, you ain't gonna get a good fuel mileage. You might gonna get 4.9, 5.1 or something like that. But it depends how fast you drive. And I usually drive 72, 73 miles an hour, if the speed limit obviously being legal. And my goal is, I like the truck. I spend a lot of money on it. I need to work on a fuel mileage. And I'm very, very, very optimistic to get this truck to pull a grain hopper, which is fully loaded. I think I should get consistent between 6 and 6.5. I believe it's possible. The guy I spoke with who actually tuned my ECM, he says, if you're willing to spend money, obviously, to be efficient, trust me, you can improve fuel mileage on MXX tremendously, and it's been done. And over time, it will pay back for itself. It's not going to be wasted money out the window, increasing the power, but you will get return money with the fuel mileage. Some people are going to say, dude, like, why you worry about the fuel is cheap? it's a good thing what the fuel is cheap, but I don't think it's gonna stay here cheap for a very long time. So till it's cheap, I need to, since the engine runs good and I solve all the problems with the atmospheric pressure and everything else, and I know the engine is 100% mechanically sound, no intercooler leaks, they get good fuel pressure, all new fuel lines, they've been replaced a while back ago, new pumps, new injectors, everything. It's time to basically do fine tuning on this engine, and I'm very, very optimistic. I think I can get over 6 miles to the gallon, and that's what I'm starting. So not trying to anybody advertise this thing to buy it, but just my own experience. So stay tuned. I know I don't post post videos quite often, um, but I will stay updated on this. So this is going to be my new project. We'll see if we're going to have quite a bit of work in the winter time. So maybe I will end up driving a little bit more. Hopefully the rates will hold up on a drive-in. So we'll be driving more, and it's more time to test it. But I think my next upgrade, I really was considering to switch to the 16 to 1 to the single turbo. Get rid of my twins and put a single with a ceramic coated manifold. My opinion, and much as I did research, it is a good thing, but it's not. It doesn't have a huge increase. So next thing, I want to leave the twins and I want to put a different manifold, exhaust manifold, ceramic coated manifold. I spoke with some guys. They left the twins and they just put a manifold. They see some increase, first of all, on the performance side of it and the fuel mileage. So that's my next stage to do. And now, since I have a scan gauge, I can see the instant fuel mileage in the average by day. Some people are going to say, well, it's not very accurate. I agree, it's not accurate, but at least it gives you the base number. If I bought the scan gauge, it doesn't mean I still got to write it down my miles, fill up the truck, and see how many miles, and then divide it by how many gallons I burn. I'm still going to do that, but that scan gauge is just, it gives you idea of going down the road and see the actual numbers what the ECM provides you with. So stay tuned. I will keep this stuff updated. Thanks for watching all. Have a blessed one.